Good morning from the lookout. I hope you're doing well today. I'm getting ready for the video this morning, and I'm trying to figure out how do I focus the camera right so that I get the sunlight right and all that. And I know that one thing for photographers is you don't want to have something growing out of your head, and so I'm breaking the rules. You ever break rules? I mean, is it okay to break rules sometimes? Whew, I hope so. My family thinks I'm a rule breaker. Because if we're at the ocean at my favorite spot at Boiler Bay and there's a fence there, but you can get closer to the water. I like to cross the fence and get closer to the water. Yeah. I know. Some of you are going to go, uh-oh. Yeah, I can't listen to that guy anymore. Okay. See ya. God bless you. I love you. I hope your life is full of more laughter than it is frowns. Is that okay? All right. We're on day 160. 160. Starting today with Matthew 5:43-48. Jesus says, "You have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. In that way, you will be acting as children of your Father in heaven. For he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. If you love only those who love you, what reward is there in that? Even corrupt tax collectors do that much. If you're kind only to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? Even pagans do that. But you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." Wow. Jesus was a tradition breaker, wasn't he? Yeah, he says, well, you've heard it said, but here's what I say. And you heard him say that, and here's what I say. And then he says this crazy thing, you're to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Well, okay, we cannot achieve that perfection that God our heavenly Father has. So, but Jesus didn't waste his words, did he? Did Jesus give us an instruction and say, do this, but I know you can't? Or did he have something in mind? Many people say it's be complete, be perfect for today, be fulfilled today. Everything that God has done in you and is working in you, be perfect, be complete in what God has done so far in your life. And in that way we can say, okay, I will live in the truth that God has blessed me with. I will live as God calls me to live, and when he speaks, I'll go. Right? So let's do that. All right? Okay. 1 Kings 5 and 6. Today, Solomon begins the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. He uses the best materials to build a magnificent structure to house the Ark of the Covenant. He begins work on the temple 480 years after God rescued Israel from the Egyptians. Solomon continues on the work for 7 years. A 7-year building project. Wow. Think of it. 7 years to build the temple, using the best materials and overlaying much of the interior with pure gold. My mind has a hard time even imagining such a structure. For this time in Solomon's life, he is focused on building something magnificent to honor and worship God. For this time in his life. How about you and me? There are seasons of life where we are so open to do anything for the Lord. The challenge, of course, is to maintain this throughout our lives. This is why it's important to build our lives one day at a time, or brick by brick, if you will, thinking about building. And the key is we must use good materials in our life building process, right? Now, so for Jesus, one of the things that we saw him do regularly was he would slip off by himself at night or early in the morning to spend time with his Heavenly Father. And that was his life practice. So Jesus leaves us an example that we should follow in his steps. And his example wasn't a bunch of rules and regulations. His example was life. Life in connection with his Heavenly Father. Let's do that, okay? Lord, help us. Really, Lord, please help us to live that way. Okay, now, in Acts chapter 7, today Stephen is on trial and begins his defense. And he does this by giving a recounting of their common history. So he's standing in front of the high court, the high religious court, okay? And he gives a recounting of their common history since the time of Abraham to Joseph to Moses. And this history lesson will continue in tomorrow's reading. We don't finish it today. So for today, why would Stephen begin his defense with a recounting or telling them about their common history? Well, okay. The accusation was he blasphemes Moses. They had people lie and say, he blasphemes Moses. He blasphemes God and he speaks against the temple. And he said that Jesus would destroy the temple and change the customs Moses handed down to them. Oh my. And before Stephen even begins his defense, chapter 6, verse 15 says, at this point, everyone in the high council stared at Stephen because his face became as bright as an angel's. Whew. This would have been a supernatural brightness. God was with him. Now, since Stephen was accused concerning Moses, he starts before Moses. The high council has Stephen on trial concerning Moses, God in the temple, and Jesus. In essence, I mean, it boils down to Jesus, right? And he was filled with God's Spirit as he made his defense. So many times people want to argue about customs and traditions concerning God. And they get really loud and they get angry as they talk about it. And Stephen brings it back to the interaction between God and people, not customs and traditions. So how about you and me? Is our focus and allegiance on God? And continually learning from him, or is it on static customs and traditions? For me, I choose God. For me, I choose God, okay? Psalm 127 says, unless the Lord builds a house, the work of the builders is wasted. Unless the Lord protects a city, guarding it with sentries will do no good at all. It is useless for you to work so hard from early morning until late at night, anxiously working for food to eat, for God gives rest to his loved ones. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. Look at your kids today and realize they are a gift from the Lord. Whew. Children are born to a young man like arrows in a warrior's hands. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city gates. Now, Proverbs 16, 28-30. A troublemaker plants seeds of strife. Gossip separates the best of friends. Violent people mislead their companions, leading them down a harmful path. With narrowed eyes, people plot evil. With a smirk, they plan their mischief. I pray that today that you will build your life, you'll lay another brick on your life, and that you'll trust God as you do that, walking each day, step by step, walking with Him. May God bless you.